For you PlayStation gamers, you're probably very familiar with Sony's iconic controller. The twin sticks, sleek finish, those buttons with the four familiar shapes on there. But wait, what does X mean again? Well, if you're from the US, you would probably say, oh, that means confirm. X marks the spot. However, if you're from Japan, you'd probably be saying the opposite. You see, the X or cross shape has different cultural meanings. For many people in the US or Europe, you would probably check or tick a box with an X to indicate selection, something like a ballot or a to-do list. In fact, checkboxes on digital interfaces used to use crosses in the 80s. But in the late 1990s, a lot of big software companies stopped using it in favor of the checkmark. A big reason for this was because the X, or cross, has a lot of different meanings in other countries and cultures. Take Japan for example. The cross, or batsu, is often used to indicate wrong, cancel, or no. On the flip side, circle, or maru, is often used to indicate correctness or affirmation. Now imagine how a Japanese person would feel when they see a checkbox, and to enable or say yes to something, they had to mark it as no. Going back to the original PlayStation, the console and its controller was designed by Teyu Goto in 1993. In an interview with Famitsu magazine, he noted that of the iconic button symbols, the triangle refers to viewpoint, square refers to a piece of paper, as I had it represent menus or documents, and the circle and X represent yes or no decision making. Their placement was inspired by Nintendo's respective A and B buttons on the SNES. I mean, Sony was even going to work with Nintendo originally, until Nintendo decided to work with Philips instead, and we all know how that went.
My boy.
However, when designing games for the PlayStation in the West, studios and developers used what was familiar with them at the time, the cross. Just like filling in a ballot, it just made sense to use that symbol for confirming. This was in the Wild West of early game development, where the standards hadn't been set yet. I mean, who uses a square button for menus nowadays?
Me? Gungaga.
And so if you played a game in the West, you often used a cross to confirm. The only time you would see otherwise would be if you got your hands on a Japanese game. In fact, when some games were localized, they would switch the controls to make it more familiar for Western audiences. Now, this all changed with the PlayStation 5 in 2020, which officially made the global, aka Western, control scheme the standard. And thus the X button would be used as a confirm action worldwide. Japanese netizens had, well, mixed reactions of course. How do you change decades of muscle memory and mental mapping? This is a classic case study in the importance of cross-cultural design, which includes both translation and localization. If you intend to make a product, whether physical or digital, for a global market, how do you design for different cultural backgrounds? How do different cultures process information? And what if something that makes sense in one culture makes absolutely zero sense in another? These are the questions that keep designers up at night. Can you think of any other examples of cross-cultural designs? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, like and subscribe if you'd like to see this lizard ramble about something else. Thanks for watching.